Welcome to the Balance Podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia, and I'm the president of KIPS and Time to Train Fitness, as well as your Balance Ambassador. We have a guest and a topic that I am a big fan of. I'm a big fan of online workouts. I'm a big fan of doing online in general. And I have one of my instructors from Time to Train Fitness on the podcast. Kelly, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. I was excited when you asked me, so I'm really excited to dive in.
Yeah. It's great to have friends and instructors that I know on the podcast that I work with on a weekly basis and that I feel like are crushing it in the online space. And I think that it's a great way to get out information about online workouts to hopefully provide fit pros listening an avenue that maybe they've thought about it. I don't know if I'm ready to jump into it. And with yourself, I think it's a great way because you do cycling, you do HIIT, and you have done in person, you've been a manager, all these different things. So to come on, share all those things, it's going to be great for the episode. So to kick things off, can you share your current work within the health and fitness industry, your background, where you used to work, and your education, all that great stuff?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to be here today. And like Tyler said, my name is Kelly, and I have been in the fitness industry. I don't even want to say how long now, because when I started thinking about it, when you asked me to come on here, I was like, he's going to ask how long I've been in this fitness industry. And I don't even want to say, but it's getting close to 20 years, if you can believe that. So nice. I've been through a lot, I guess. The great thing about group fitness is it's, other than the formats, it's the same. It's, a group of people coming together to get fit and healthy. So over the years, the core of it has always stayed the same. But I started out, you asked me, how I got into all of this business in the first place was I started out, we lived in Tennessee, which I absolutely love, by the way. So if anyone's out there in Tennessee, it's probably one of my favorite states. Mm-hmm. And I just would go to the local parks and rec and take classes. And finally, one day they said, hey, we're going to have a cycling, certification. Does anybody, want to do it? Kelly, do you want to take it? And I thought, well, I don't know. So I went home and I talked to my husband about it. And he's like, why not? You'll get paid. You get to work out. You need to do this, So I said, okay, fine. So I took it. Tyler, little did I know, because I had never taken a cycling class before, I walked out of that cycling certification barely able to walk, but thoroughly excited about the format. So that is how I began, was an indoor cycling instructor.
Nice.
And from there, it just took off. So I started that. Then I decided I really liked it enough to get the group fitness certification, which I'm certified through AFA. And so I got the group fitness certification, and then I decided I liked it so much that I wanted to become a personal trainer. Mm-hmm. So I went through the personal training certification through AFA as well, and I'm certified that way. And then I decided I liked it so much that I needed to go back to school and ended up getting my master's degree in exercise science, because nice. Loved how the body moves and how it works. And it just amazed me. Mm-hmm. So I did that. And then since then have become a certified strength and conditioning specialist through the National Strength and Conditioning Association. So that's another one. And also certified through the American College of Sports Medicine as an exercise physiologist as well. So you can tell I really like what I do.
Yeah. The education piece is huge in my opinion. And for someone that I'm still in school and I can't wait to be done. And
I love learning. I wish I could go back to school right now. So anyways, go ahead.
No. It's education, I think, is a big piece of our industry and the growth of an instructor. And something that I think I was asked recently in a podcast episode was somebody that does have, initials after their name and, working as a fitness instructor and also I was a group exercise instructor, but also a personal trainer, that right. whole balance between both of those, and is education more prevalent and one over the other? And how do you feel like the education piece has helped you go between both? Do you feel like it's more education, or do you feel like it was more experience or personality?
That's a great question because honestly, I feel like it's both. I feel
Yeah.
like you have to have the education to be able to be knowledgeable, to know what you're talking about,
Hmm.
to lead your participant, whether it's a personal training client or a group fitness participant, through a safe, effective workout for a reason and not just
Hmm.
doing something randomly because it looked fun.
Hmm.
So I really feel like it takes both the education and then also just the personality too, to be able to be in front of people, talk to people. I know sometimes when I would do personal training, you almost become a counselor too, because you're with people
Yep.
enough that they, start talking.
Yeah.
But I think I digressed. Did I answer your question?
100%. 100%.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to get back to the topic of this
Keep me on
episode
track here.
with the online workout realm. How has your career changed over the last 2 years? That's something that, you and I met from
Yes.
Facebook,
Yes.
and it's kind of a random occurrence. I was on I don't know what you want to call it, a Facebook show, just talking about online
Yeah.
workouts, and you had reached out and we stayed in contact. And, but, the question to you being, how has your career over the last few years? What has been kind of that transition to online? And I know that you dabbled in other stuff before. Can you kind of jump into that?
Yes. So, like everyone pre-pandemic, I was a in-person group fitness instructor. I don't really do personal training so much anymore. I've kind of stuck with the group fitness. And then the pandemic hit. So, just like every other fitness instructor probably in the world, I was trying to figure out ways to bring my fitness to the community without being in contact.
Hmm.
And so that is where you came in because I was trying to figure out all of my equipment. And I think you did a great podcast on, or it was like you said, a Facebook Live on the type
Hmm.
of equipment. So I went and bought everything that you said. I was like, okay, this guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
That's good.
And yeah. And then I just started, trying to dabble in my own thing. And I am so happy and thankful and blessed that you called me or sent me a message, I think through Facebook, and was asking if maybe I'd like to come work for your company. And I was like,
Hmm.
yes, yes. Someone that can help me because it is hard to do it on your own,
Yeah.
And ever since I've been working with Time to Train Fitness and You, I've loved it because it's almost, I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but I have really mixed feelings about in-person or virtual, but I really do love the virtual in the sense that it really fits my schedule a whole heck of a lot more than in
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
yeah. And I don't know. I've just been really having fun with it. I enjoy doing the videos. I enjoy, doing all the taping portions of it. I'm still thinking of workouts, and getting them out there to people and hoping that they do it.
Hmm.
So it is different. It is a completely different feel from in person to virtual. I don't know if you want to get into all that now or later, but it is a completely different feel.
Yeah. Yeah. The piece that, is kind of good to jump into here is whenever I bring someone on, I've even from the time that you and I reconnected to now, even the way that I speak to someone on the phone, I have to be very honest with them that I have to say, it's very different.
Mm-hmm.
The expectations are different, and be honest with them, because I think near the beginning, probably 2020, and it's no fault to anybody that they jumped into it, or they say, oh yeah, I can do this. I can, online workouts. Yeah, I'm interested. I want to do it. But they get started and they're like, oh man, this isn't what I expected. Like
Right.
this isn't like in person. There's so much more, there's so many other things. And,
Right.
what would be that piece of advice that you have for somebody that you're like, hey, online workouts are great. It works with my schedule. There's a lot of benefits, but you really need to, what is that kind of tip you'd give them?
I would probably say two things. Number one, realize it's almost a little bit more work
Mhm.
than because you can't just teach, you just don't show up and teach and leave.
Yeah.
You've got to get your camera set up. You've got to make sure that the sound is working. You got to make sure that the lighting is okay and the angle is correct. And I always laugh because I swear I do the intros to my workouts 5 or 6 times before I get the one I feel good with. And I always think, Tyler, you could do a blooper roll with all of my intros that I like throw out. Maybe I'll send them all to you one time. But, it's not as easy. Like when you go into a class, well, if you miss up your intro, it doesn't matter. You just keep going, know. But online, you tend to start over. I don't generally start over when I'm in the middle of a workout because it is what it is. But in the very beginning, I feel like I can get that intro right. So there's just a lot of steps, a little bit more than just showing up at the gym and teaching and leaving. The other piece of advice that I would give is, and I learned this from you, Tyler, but to have good equipment. It really does make all the difference. And I've seen that from when I started with you until now, accumulating better stuff. It really does make all the difference. So if this is going to be your full-time gig, or this is something you really want to do, definitely make that investment into that nicer equipment. And I'm not saying you need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars, but even just, a little bit more than the cheapest one you can find on Amazon, I think will truly make a difference.
Yep. 100%. And, along those lines, even secondary stuff in terms of OfferUp, Facebook Market, there's great equipment being sold right now.
For sure.
That people tried to dip into that over the last few years, and now they're selling it for a fraction.
I was just going to say, now might be the time. Now might be the time to get into that equipment, since a lot of people have given up the ghost of virtual. But I do think it's there to stay. I really do. I think so. If you want to make that change, I don't think virtual is going to ever go anywhere at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's just how you mentioned before with the timing. I think it's both sides of the equation that people realized. I'm talking about non-fitness instructor people realize how convenient it is. I've been someone that was doing those types of workouts before and working out from home before because of time. The same reason why people realized that it's such a benefit now, but that realization now that, oh, wow, this is great. This is very convenient. I can save time. I can apply in other places in my life. That's such a big benefit for both sides of the coin that they can really jump into those things. With now, one of the pieces you mentioned with the equipment, I have to go back because that's one of my favorite topics. Is equipment. It's one of those things where, and I came to this kind of realization. I'm probably being more harsh, now in my tutorials when I talk about YouTube or podcasts and I talk about online workouts, is that this is, if it's going to be your career, treat it like your career. Don't have that mindset. I'm just going to pop this on. I'm just going to throw this on with my phone. I'm just going to set my phone against my computer here, try to get a little bit all my ceilings in the background there. And no biggie. I'm just going to shout at my camera and, I'll just put it up and see what happens. That's not professional. That's not a career choice that anybody's going to really be like, oh yeah, I'm going to invest in this. If it's going to be your career or you want to make it your career, you're going to do a side hustle, whatever it is, until you feel like, I can transition to this. Make it that, put the time and effort into it. And oftentimes the equipment that you have, that's the number one question I ask someone when I start with Kelly. I already knew what she had because she told me and we discussed it before, which made it super convenient. But the first question I ask people is always, what phone do you have? Do you have an iPad? Because that's one of the best pieces you can start with. The cameras, the recording quality of an iPhone these days is amazing. Unless you're spending thousands, not thousands, but 1,000, hundreds on a mirrorless camera, your iPhone is going to be tremendous for you. Now you're just looking at interfaces, mixers, microphones to round that out, but you have a great tool right there. And I want to jump into that technical aspect because that's one of the big pieces that, you and I, how you and I connected, that it was something that you were having a headache with. What is kind of what's the process actually that you went through that you saw you were having issues before? Well, we connected, we talked about stuff. What was that like mentally did you ever want to give up? Did you ever feel like this was such a headache? What was that like?
Yes, I think I went through all the gamuts of feelings. You get your new stuff and I was so excited, I'm going to
Hmm.
plug it in and I'm going to make these awesome workouts. And then there's, like we have already said, there's so much more to it. And
Yeah.
then I couldn't get it to work with Zoom.
Mm.
I was trying to use it on my iPad and it wouldn't work with my iPad. So I had to use my computer, but then that meant I had a lesser camera. And then there's just so much to it. Yeah, I did want to throw in the towel. I do believe. And I was, like I said, happy that you contacted me because I'm like, great, now I have a chance to actually use this.
Hmm.
But can I make a little sidebar here?
Please do.
I know we're talking about equipment, but at the same token, one big thing I didn't say to people out there would be to find a really good mentor, like an established mentor, someone that has been through it. Like, I had an experience with one that wasn't so good. And then I met you and I'm like, you just night and day, So if you
Appreciate
can
that.
really, you know, find somebody that has done this and has done well at it,
Hmm.
not just thrown something up there or whatever, and look at the quality of their stuff and just talk to them and see if they'll mentor you. I think that makes all the difference too, because when I can call you or, one of our other instructors and just say, hey, what are you guys doing? It makes it so much easier to get through, some of these trials, especially even with the equipment. Like, how should I set up my lights? I think we just had a big conversation about that. Like, where do I
Yep.
put this light? What color should it be? It's nice to have that mentorship and that camaraderie as well.
Yeah. It's a good tip.
So,
Very good tip.
yeah.
Those pieces right there, like that's the parts of online workouts to, if you want to really get into those pieces, you have to think outside of fitness. That's one of the
True.
pieces that I've shared before, like near like 2020, early 2021, when people would have me on their shows to talk about stuff. And I would just say, you have to look outside of fitness. I mean, I was watching videos on people that were streaming for their church, people that were doing video production, doing music recording, and watching these videos, just trying to figure out how these pieces came together because you are piecing things together. I mean, there's some things that are pretty similar, but you're piecing things together to make it work for online workouts. And the big difference that I talk about with it, unless you're doing a more stationary, more less dynamic type of workout, you are all over the place. I mean,
Mhm.
if we're talking about a hip workout here, that you are every side of that frame, everywhere. And that's different than a lot of different things. It's almost like a movie. And so you have to almost have that mindset, oh, well, I need something that can keep up with me. I need something, if we're talking about cameras, I need something that can autofocus quickly, or I need a microphone that'll sound no matter where I am in frame. It's
Right.
going to sound the same. But now think about your microphone. Okay, if I'm clipping it to my shirt, okay, if I have my mouth closer to my shirt, it's going to become distorted. Now, all those pieces come into play.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more than just if you were just doing an interview style recording. It's very, very different. But I'm moving into more craziness of online workouts there. But let's get back to the equipment pieces with it.
Yes.
As you started to evolve and grow, I actually want to go back a little bit now. Now that
Okay.
I think about it, I believe you had your own like online workout group. And what was that? What was that like? And what was kind of your journey with that?
So, like I said before, I was kind of like the rest of the fitness world getting into online fitness.
Hmm.
And I just started in my basement like everybody else
Yeah.
with I think I used my computer.
Hmm.
And I didn't have a microphone. I didn't use music because of the whole, copyright and stuff. So actually my
Yeah.
workouts, I never had music in it. I would just, I kind of did what you said. I put my computer up, I stood back and I yelled at my computer and I taught. I didn't think they were half bad, but maybe if I go back and look at them now, I might cringe. I'm not sure. But they served my purpose in my group. We were happy to have it. So I really started out bare bones, really,
Hmm.
you know. Then I did get a microphone and figured out how to hook that up so that I could at least be, heard better through the computer. So that was kind of my first one. It was not an expensive one. It was on the cheaper side, but it was one that I found that was easy to use.
Mm-hmm.
And then I delved into maybe wanting to add music. And that's when I bought the interface that you recommend, that Scarlett Solo, or I believe it's called, it's a red box. I don't know.
Yeah, you got it.
And so I bought that to try to integrate music. And that was hard, really. I have to be honest, like trying to get the volumes correctly, the music too high, all that good stuff. Is that what, am I on the right track? The evolution of how I came about it?
100%.
And then, so I did that. And then after that, I did invest finally in a webcam, but it never worked right because the autofocus wasn't good. You had mentioned that earlier about autofocus, and I was teaching HIT classes because that was the easiest thing for me to teach, not having music. A cycle class is not fun if you don't have music.
Yeah.
So I was teaching the HIT classes and I would go up and down, I'd be up doing something and then I would get down on the floor and do something and then get back up. And then the camera was not which just wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was after I saw your video where you had recommended the iPad Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went ahead and I did purchase one of those, and that made all the difference in the video quality. I will tell you that, but then I couldn't get the interface to work with the iPad. So, it was really more Zoom, I think, at the time.
It is.
It's not so much, because now that is exactly what I use, my iPad and interface, and it works fine, but I'm not using Zoom. So maybe Zoom has come a long way since then. I'll be honest, I haven't used Zoom for a workout in quite some time.
Oh yeah. That's part of it. Like Zoom. And I've mentioned that, I'm trying to remember like the last time I talked about it, because I don't use Zoom for workouts or in that realm. And I don't use Zoom as much anymore. And even just doing the podcast, how much I just see from using it a couple of times to now. And it's a lot more expensive now. And I'm sure it's tougher for some people if that is their business model, having to evolve in that way. But a year ago, the app version in it. So it's frustrating because I was a paid customer of Zoom before, and it took me like at least 3 weeks just to find out that, you're using it on an iPad. Well, the app version doesn't support that I can't use the internet. It's like, are you kidding? You couldn't tell me that like 3 weeks ago when I started asking about this. And it's one of those things where, the device, and whether you're using it on an iPad and an app, or if you're using a desktop, it's going to make an issue, create an issue. But what you mentioned there with doing streams and, what you're doing now with pre-recorded, what do you think about both of those, doing pre-recorded, doing live streams? Do you like live streams, or do you prefer the pre-recorded content?
Hands down, I prefer pre-recorded. I really do. Because if there's a mistake, you stop, you start over. I don't feel the pressure, if you're on live and that microphone cuts out, sorry, Charlie, if I will admit, here's another one for you guys out there. So there's been a couple, 2, 3, 4 occasions where I either forgot to hit the record button, or I hit the record button and it stopped recording because I ran out of space on my iPad. So for those of you out there listening, make sure you have enough space on your device before you start. And I'll do an entire workout and then realize it didn't tape at all. So that's one of the scary parts of being a virtual instructor. So then you have to redo it. But I'm digressing. I do like the pre-recorded, because if you run into those things, they're fixed. They're fixable. You just go back and do it again. I can do it at my own time. I think that's my favorite thing, is if you're doing a live virtual class, I'm assuming you would have it at the same time every week. Monday mornings at 9:00, I'll be there. Well, if a child gets sick or, something comes up and I can't make it, then what do you do? Whereas if I pre-record, I'm like, okay, I can do it on a Saturday. I can do it whenever I want. I can do it at midnight if I want, and still get it done. So yes, hands down, I honestly prefer the pre-recorded ones.
Yeah. And I feel like that is something a lot of instructors they'll go through that, and they'll see those struggles with the audio levels, the
Yeah.
quality of it. I mean, if you're streaming, a big part of it will also be your internet connection. How fast is your upload speed? All those different things play a factor with a streamed workout that
Yeah, true.
can be a huge headache. I mean, even just before we press record on this, we had a little internet issues, and that's part of doing any type of anything online.
You're right.
And with pre-recorded content, the quality is better. You can prepare yourself a little bit more with your notes, and if you make any type of mistakes with it, kind of does alleviate some of those. But the quality thing, I think, is huge. But also, if we're talking about convenience, that's kind of where we started this episode, talking about is convenience for both
Yes.
sides, not only to the instructor, but the individual taking it. A lot of online is people realize they can do things on their time. They can make a schedule there. They don't have to show up for a 9 a.m. class, or they don't have to be there if they're late, whatever it is. Those things are not part of online. They can, if they're at home, oh, well, maybe 8:45 a.m. works for me better. Or maybe, 1 p.m. in the middle of the day, once my kids are at school, this time works
Right.
better for me. That's the beauty of online that people really realized. And so making pre-recorded content fits better for them. And that was something where I'll just share a little with Time to Train here. When we first started, September 2020, my whole thing was, okay, we're do live stream. We're gonna make, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in this book that they're in this path that were like, oh, I want to make the in-person experience online, and we're gonna
Right.
do live stream. We're gonna do 20. I think my goal was like 30, and we had like 24, something like that. And I kept getting emails. Is this content going to be like, am I going to be able to take this after? Like,
Yeah.
what if
Yeah.
I want to take this after? And I'm like, oh man, I need to switch. And I made that switch after a week. That business model is no longer a part of Time to Train, but that was something that quickly realized and had to pivot on. With yourself, I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever asked you before about YouTube in general. If you watch YouTube, or like, I know that I'm one of those people that watches a lot of YouTube, and in different capacities. How has your experience? I know that with Time to Train, I handle a lot of it, but it's a good question to ask you. What has been like your outlook on it? Has it improved? Do you feel like you become more comfortable with it?
Absolutely. I remember when I first started, you were like, you just have to do your first workout, Kelly. Just do your first workout, because I was asking you so many questions. Like, what about this? What you're like, just do your workout. And I did. And it went fine. And then each time you get a little better. Now, I'm not going to say that every taping gets better and better, because sometimes I get off and I'm like, oh, I don't know. Tyler might say, let's redo this one, but you just do it. And
Yeah.
it's just like teaching. You just go and you just do it. And some days you have great, and I tell this to my participants, sometimes you're fitness rock stars and sometimes you're not. And that's okay, and I think that's okay though, even on YouTube, not necessarily putting on a bad workout, but we have to show that we're real and we're not, just perfect fitness people, and so I think it's good, it's good. And YouTube, I never, you had asked about that. Prior to you, I did not do anything with YouTube. I did most of everything of mine was through Facebook. So I would upload videos to Facebook, or I would do a live video on Facebook, and then it would just be, kept in the queue for people to watch that were in my group. So I did that. And I've probably looked at YouTube more now than I ever have. I try not to look at my videos. I wait for you to tell me all the stats of them. I'll keep track of our subscribers, I guess, because I know we're on a goal and we're on a path. But so I honestly, unfortunately, don't have a lot of wisdom to spout about YouTube, because you handle all that back end stuff. But you just got to keep doing it. You just got to do it. So if you're nervous to do that first workout, just do it. And then you'll look back on it and you'll, 6 months from now, and be like, what did I do? But it'll be fine. You're just going to grow each and every time you tape. Something will click, or something will be improved, or
Yep.
Yeah,
That's the part of it. That's like the tip that almost everybody that records content gives, is you just got to go. And you could always even see, like, I have like a video in my head that what I did for my company, Kips, that I'm like, why did I record it like that? Like, I'm just like, why is it like so dark? Why is like my my microphone windscreen in my face? Like, what am I doing? And I didn't like white balance it. I know that you know what white balancing is now, but
Yes.
like there's so many things. I'm like, what was I thinking? And like that's part of the journey with creating
I think
content.
you should repost that so we can all see how far you've come.
I should. That
You should.
we can laugh at it, and I know I laugh at it, and
But at the time, you did really good and you probably felt good and you kept going. So, see, you just got to keep going.
yeah, because there's so many pieces that I can recall, like some of the editing that I was doing on it. I'm like, oh wow, like that, the graphics or even the titles that are coming in. Okay, I was really happy about that. The video part of it, I was like, but the piece that I think is a good takeaway from this part of the episode is with the get going, because you build your comfort level. I think that that's one of the things that instructors kind of get in their head too much, is like, oh, well, how did I sound? How do I look on camera? And you gotta
Yes.
get over that. I know that I did myself. That's part of the evolution of doing workouts, but also filming content. I mean, there was years when I was doing KIPS where I didn't do tutorials or whatnot now, but now it's a weekly part of my schedule. But you gain that confidence, but also that comfort level in front of the camera. How was that for yourself?
Gaining the confidence and the comfort level.
Yeah.
Is that where you're? I definitely feel like I've grown. Other than every time I say I'm going to get my intro right on the first go, and it never happens. So one of these days I will. I'll surprise myself. But you just start to do it. I don't know how else to say it other than that. In the beginning, you might write. I didn't, but you might want to write out what you want to say, your intro. Hi, my name is Kelly. I work with Time to Train Fit, or whatever you're going to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just kind of just do it, because you end up kind of saying the same things as for your intro and outro every time, mostly because you want to start with who you are, what you're doing, and end with, thank you for coming and subscribe. But I kind of try to just picture like I'm in for the actual teaching portion, I try to picture that I'm just in a class and I'm just cueing students, even though they're not there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I go into my instructor zone. I tell people, because we've all been fitness instructors where we come in and there's one person and you're like, oh, goodness gracious. But I still just tell them, I'm like, I'm just going to go into instructor zone and we're just going to do this, And so I just try to get into my instructor zone, and my husband tells me I turn on my spinning voice and I just go and I just do it.
Mm-hmm. I know what you're talking about. I've heard the voice.
The voice. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. He'll tell me to use that in like real life. He'll be like, you just need to turn on your spinning voice, Kelly, and tell them.
That's funny. And I think that that's one of the similarities, though, that to using your in-person coaching personality, using it on online. It's funny. Pretty recently with my wife, we were talking about the funniest way to say is I'm going to make an appearance as a live instructor soon.
That'd be fun.
I don't teach in person anymore, but I'm going to be doing it for my wife's company soon. And so I'm going to be coming back to live that way.
Will you remember how to do it?
I don't know. I'm hopeful. We'll see. But like the part of it that, she had to explain to her boss was like how I'm not the rah instructor. I'm more the technical instructor. Like that's how, how I've made my way through the industry, that most people know the technical things that I say and how I cue things, and bringing that though, whatever your personality is from in person, bringing that to online.
Camera.
Exactly. That you don't have to necessarily switch your whole mindset, how you cue, just bring that to the camera. Don't go outside of your comfort zone. Try to make this new personality. Be yourself in those ways. And that's part of why people come back. They come back for how you say stuff, but how natural you seem, and your personality that attracts them in the first place. You're still making that connection. It's just, you're doing it a different way. You're doing it through the screen.
Right. And, it is like, you just, I don't know, you just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one more question before we get to the
Sure.
last part of the episode. I want to get your thoughts on royalty-free music versus mainstream because you're being a cycling instructor. Music is a big part of cycling. And, one of the pieces that I've talked about before is with cycling specifically in person, you can use, music more to your advantage.
Right.
And, with online, the whole royalty-free is a big aspect. If you want to build your business that way, there are different businesses that try to
Mhm.
find creative ways to use mainstream. But what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think it just really goes down to how you want to teach. I mean, I think I'm assuming everybody hands down would obviously want mainstream music in their class because that's what people know. That's what they get motivated by, especially in a cycling class when you're just on your bike and you get into the song, the words, you can sing it in your head or out loud if you want, It- so it's hard. And then when you go online with all the copyright issues and all that stuff, then you have to find a way to hopefully use music to motivate. It's just in a different way. Uh,
Hmm.
but I do think everyone would prefer mainstream, but you do have that option. And I would, say use it in my HIT classes. To me, it's not as big of a deal in my HIT classes. I feel that's more of like a background music. So as long as you have, a good tempo, good beat, whenever I'm in in-person class and I say, what do you guys want to hear? Then they always say hands down, something upbeat,
Hmm.
So for those type of classes that aren't driven necessarily by the music, I think it's not as big of a deal as mainstream versus royalty free. Because even when I teach my in-person classes and I use, ready-made mixes and stuff, they don't always have 100% mainstream, music or remakes of mainstream music.
Hmm.
So I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's the cycling, I think, is definitely hard. So when I make up my workouts and we use a royalty-free site, I really try to listen to the beat. What am I going to be doing to this? Am I going to be climbing? Am I going to be on a flat? Am I going to be, speeding up? What am I going to be doing? And I try to find music that matches that.
Hmm.
And I'm sure everybody can tell from this podcast, I'm a talker. So I talk a lot during my workouts as an instructor. And I mean, this is my opinion, but I like that better because I don't like being in a cycling class, especially if there wasn't mainstream music where it would just be silent and I would just, let's climb for the next 2 minutes, and then nothing. So I think there's different ways that you can balance it out, maybe by using your cueing, being a little bit more vocal, really focusing in on the beat. What are you trying to do with that song and not just throw on a song and be like, okay, I think this is what we're going to do, really think it through when you use that royalty-free music. Obviously, you have to do the same thing with mainstream music. But like I said, I think people are a little bit more motivated when you do have that mainstream. So you have to get a little creative in the virtual world using that alternate type of music.
Good answer. Good feedback there. Well,
Yeah.
we're getting to the last question here, the podcast closing tips. And this one is more just insight into your perspective on the fitness industry.
Okay.
Nothing more than that. But Kelly, what are two closing thoughts on the future of the fitness industry that you would like to share?
So I feel like the fitness industry is going to always be here. It's always going to be something that will be needed. People are continuing to age and they want to stay fit. They want to stay healthy. And so I really think that if this is your industry, there's probably going to be some type of job for you somewhere. So that's one. And also the future of the fitness, I really believe that hybrid is here to stay. I
Hmm.
think people have found, even if they're members of a gym, I think people still look to online stuff for the days they can't make it to the gym. Like you said, 20-minute workouts that they can fit in at lunch. I tell people with our online workouts, even if you have a gym and let's say you want to take a cycling class there and it's not at the right time, take my cycling class with you.
Yeah.
Pop in your earbuds, go to your gym, get a bike. Most gyms have like a spin bike that you can use outside of the spin room and have your own private workout, you
Yeah.
know? even if you don't have the equipment, any of the equipment to do any of the stuff at home, you can go to your gym, put on a virtual workout and do exactly what the instructor says. And they have all the equipment.
Yep.
So I think, I really feel like the hybrid's going to stay. I think there are people that'll be solely virtual, solely in person, but I think a lot of people are going to end up using both. So if this is a path that you want to take and you've got the music and you've got the comfort level and you've got the technical equipment, I think that you will not have a problem.
Yep. And I've actually seen people do that before at the gym.
Have you?
And I would say it's a rarity that I do go to an in-person gym because I have my own in-home gym. But
Right.
one of the last times I went to an in-person gym, I saw that somebody had their phone out. They were following a workout on the gym floor. And,
Yep.
it's one of those things where it's convenient, but it gives them a program to follow. And I think it's great that way.
Exactly.
Well, we're wrapping up here. Kelly, can you give your social media links? I know that you're more on a one platform, but can you give social media links and that kind of information?
Yeah, you can certainly follow me. I'm mostly honestly now at Time to Train Fitness.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much my sole thing. I do some in-person classes, but you can follow me at, I guess, Time to Train Fitness. Tyler, you might be better able to give all of the handles, but I know that we're on YouTube. So subscribe, everybody go there and subscribe right now.
Yep.
And we have Facebook. I know we have a website and Instagram. So
there we go. And I'll include those in the description. Kelly, thank you for coming on, talking about online workouts. Great episode.
I loved it.
And excited to see hopefully more people go into the online space.
Well, thank you for having me. I hope everyone gained something. And, I appreciate you letting me take some of your time.